no doesn't mean never. It usually means not right now. And that's like something that people really need to understand and not take stuff personally. Timing is everything and some of this stuff. And it's awesome to hear that some of these original no's came back, I'm assuming like the next round or things like that to help, you guys get to even higher heights.
Exactly. And every time I got a no, I asked for an introduction. So, it's just kind of like a chain of meeting people.
Honest Ecommerce is a weekly podcast where we interview direct-to-consumer brand founders and leaders to find out what it takes to start, grow, and scale an online business today. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. Today, I'm welcoming to the show Jordan Nathan. Jordan is the founder and CEO of Caraway Home. This episode's been a long time in the making. I'm so happy to have you here. Jordan, how are you doing today?
Doing great. So excited to be on here. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. So for the subset of folks that aren't familiar with Caraway Home in the audience, why don't you quickly let them know the types of products you and the team are bringing to market over there?
Caraway's a non-toxic kitchenware brand. We started in the cookware category, selling a ceramic, non-stick, non-toxic product. And today we're a full kind of home and kitchen brand. So we've expanded to bakeware, cutting boards, food storage. We just launched a trash and recycling bin. And our mission is to make all homes non-toxic homes.
That's an amazing mission. So take me back in time. Where did kind of the idea for this business come from?
Caraway was launched in 2019. Out of college, I actually tried to start my first startup, which was an e-commerce marketplace. And the whole idea around it was you had Amazon, which had a bunch of products that you needed, and the whole e-commerce industry was booming. And so wanted to create a marketplace for D2C brands, which, funny enough, there still is like no core place to go for them. Today, outside of your website. That was a really cool experience. Got to work more on the tech side, but got to speak to a lot of brands. And after a failed fundraise attempt, ended up at this company called Mohawk Group, which owned a bunch of Amazon brands. And I had the fortunate experience to be one of the first 10 hires. They brought me in to run a brand called Vremi, which was their kitchen business. And when I first started there, they had a few SKUs, but they weren't doing so well. So I actually ended up teaching myself product development. We then needed like a big rebrand. So we went through that process. And at the time, all Amazon was in the category was all like black and stainless steel products. So we took a very colorful approach and had the fortunate experience to really run the full business there. So I ended up launching 200 products in 2.5 years. I did a rebrand. When we launched the products, they all sold out. So then I needed to learn how to forecast and really got to run the full gamut, which is awesome. I think the thing I realized in my time there was I really got to see the industry from the inside out. I spent a lot of time in Asia, traveling the world to different factories, and we were selling a lot of just cheap products on Amazon that competed on price. Color was definitely a differentiator and something that I brought into Caraway. But I didn't feel great about putting just more plastic junk out into the market. And I had a really scary experience during a product test where I overheated a Teflon pan accidentally and actually got sick from the Teflon fumes. And kind of following that experience, started diving a bit more into materials, was at my like 2.5 year mark there, and really felt like there was a big opportunity to marry that design that I had built into Vremi and color with modern materials. So I think I left in somewhere in 2018, started working on the brand, and we launched kind of 12 to 18 months later in November 2019.
Absolutely. I got a few follow-ups about your time at Vremi. Obviously, I don't need dollars and cents here, but I'm assuming that it was a job. You weren't necessarily seeing the upside of the amazing value you were creating for essentially your boss, or however you want to describe it. Was that did I read into that the correct way?
Yeah. I mean, to start, I was 23 or 24, and I essentially was given full reins to run a brand, which was amazing. And, it was a venture-backed business. I was one of a couple brands, and I did eventually get promoted to CEO of that business and got to do a little bit of everything. So it was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. But definitely challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely challenging being in a broader organization when you have multiple brands. There's always, a fight over resources. And then when you're building something you're really invested in, but you don't actually own it, that can be very challenging. I think in a perfect world, I would have maybe like spun it out of the business and kind of run it separately. And I think that was the vision at the time when they were building brands. But yeah, as much as like I was in charge of this brand, it still wasn't my own. And, it's a really, challenging kind of situation to be in when you put the blood, sweat, and tears into building something essentially from scratch.
Yeah, but the learnings on someone else's dime, though, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity, like you said. So it needed to happen. You kind of cut your teeth and you learned all these amazing skills. And obviously you were the CEO of Vremi, and something that I've like kind of learned on the show, and I like it, CEOs kind of know a little bit about a lot, and their major skill is delegating.
Yeah, it was invaluable. Funny enough, it was me and like one or two other people working on the brand, and then we had like accounting, design, essentially every function. We're like a support agency inside the company, so built a lot of systems, a lot of project management to delegate a lot of those tasks to people that kind of service the full business. And I think on the invaluable side, this was a very venture scale business. So like profitability was like not a goal at first. And then we had to like flip the switch at a certain point. And coming into Caraway, that was just a great opportunity where, I started Caraway with the intention of this is going to be profitable from day one. And I'm not going through that process again of like burning cash to then have to try to flip it around, which was, chaos in the moment.
Hey, everybody, just a quick reminder. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're releasing interviews like this every week, so don't miss out. Now back to the interview. Let's talk about that transition. And you said it was about an 18-month window to kind of get all of your ducks in a row to actually launch the brand and launch the products.
Yeah, might have been a little shorter, but I started, I think I started ideating on this early 2018. Left my role at Mohawk around June or July of 2018. And I just made a fundraising deck and immediately started raising. So it was just me. It was a deck. I took like a cookware set from Google, threw it in there. And that was really challenging because there were 6 other cookware brands who actually had fundraised already before I got there. So everyone kind of like picked their winner. And that first raise took about 10 full months to close. I think we raised 1.8 million. It was 50 or 60 total checks in that round. So if you do that math, it's around 25K a check. Cookware is a really hard product to develop. There's a lot of cost that goes into it. There's tooling, the inventory is expensive. And so, essentially as kind of checks rolled in, I started building the product and the brand, and that process took probably 12 to 15 months. And the product was the first thing that we really started focusing on.
Yeah, you said that there were 52 checks. So how many meetings do you think you had to get those 52 checks?
Yeah, I've thought about that before. I wouldn't be shocked if it was close to 1,000. I literally think every day for 10 months I was doing like 5 to 8 investor meetings. And I just took an approach of there's infinite capital out there. I'm going to get to my number probably at some point. I think what was actually really great through that process is even people who passed, those were like our first customers, and they're people who are still champions of the business today. So I had gotten to build a really big network. Through that process too, there were a lot of folks who early on passed. And then as we started making more progress, they saw the product, they saw the brand, they came in later. And it's funny when you're in those early stages of the brand, you think you're really busy, but you're kind of sitting around a lot of the day, like waiting for the brand to be developed and the product, and you're kind of getting prepared. And so it was a really good use of time to, make that many connections. And a lot of those, whether they invested or not, have been such big supporters of the business to date.
Yeah, I think that's something really worth pointing out is just because somebody says no, and this is even beyond fundraising, this is like sales, this is job opportunities, etc. no doesn't mean never. It usually means not right now. And that's like something that people really need to understand and not take stuff personally. Timing is everything and some of this stuff. And it's awesome to hear that some of these original no's came back, I'm assuming in like the next round or things like that to help, you guys get to even higher heights.
Exactly. And every time I got a no, I asked for an introduction. So, it's just kind of like a chain of meeting people. And it was a tough experience, but great experience. And we actually raised another round shortly after launching, which had like another 60 to 100 investors in it. And a good chunk of those all came from, prior conversations of people who passed, before we launched.
Yeah, asking for an introduction after a no is such like a smart thing to do. Like, I understand it's not the right fit for you. Like, anyone that might be a good fit for? Is that basically what you said?
Exactly. Or do you know a potential partner we could work with? And it is hard to fundraise when someone who said no is passing you along to someone. They're naturally going to, ask for the reference. But it's really hard to network into the angel market, which is where we mostly raise from. And that was really the best way to do it. And actually, our first checks came from just cold emails that I had sent out. And AngelList doesn't, exist in the same way that it did back then, but used to be able to go through and there are lists and lists of angel investors. And I used to just mass send to all of them. And, I got a couple answers here or there. And that's how we kind of kicked off the raise.
Do you know what's going on with Klaviyo? When is the last time you explored what it can do? Klaviyo has been shipping tons of new AI, data, and automation features designed to help e-commerce teams move faster, personalize better, and automate more of the work that used to take entire teams. Most brands are only using a fraction of what is already inside their Klaviyo account. Klaviyo is not just email and SMS anymore. It is your customer data platform, your lifecycle marketing engine, your analytics layer, and now your AI-assisted execution layer all in one place. That means your customer data updates in real time. Your segments stay current automatically. Your flows and campaigns all run off the same source of truth. And now AI can help predict churn risk, forecast spend, recommend next best products, generate campaign content, and optimize send timing across channels. The big unlock is speed and efficiency. There are fewer tools to manage, less dependency on engineering, less time moving data between systems, and a lower total cost of ownership across your marketing stack. And brands are seeing real results from leaning further into Klaviyo. Dollar Shave Club has reported over 30% reduction in total CRM stack costs after consolidating onto Klaviyo. Brands like Third Love have seen a 15x ROI from SMS after consolidating channels. And companies like Corksicle have grown flow revenue over 90% after bringing email and SMS together inside Klaviyo. Across our customer base, almost every single brand we work with today is using Klaviyo. That is just where serious e-commerce customer data and lifecycle infrastructures are living these days. If you're already on Klaviyo, but you feel like you're not getting everything you can out of it, or you're just running multiple tools and want to simplify without losing power, I think this is worth your time. You should head on over to klaviyo.com/honest to learn more. That's KLAVIYO.com/honest to learn more about what Klaviyo can do for you today. The fundraising is a whole conversation, but let's kind of pivot back to building a brand. So while you're fundraising, what were some of those key moments and key projects prior to launch that were also taking up a lot of your time?
Yeah. So first would be the product development. We are a product-based company at Caraway, and we put a lot of attention into every little detail of the item. We knew when we started the development of the product, we wanted something that was timeless, that would look amazing. We wanted something that was Apple-esque, and we were doing a lot of R&D on the coding itself to make sure that we had something that was, free of PFAS and safe to use, but also high performance. So a lot of the time went into R&D. We brought in a branding agency to help build the brand. That's such a fun process to go through, choosing the name, et cetera. And then building the team. When we launched, we had, it was 4 of us. So I brought on essentially a head of growth, a head of operations, and a head of brand. So we had a nice kind of variety of skill sets there. And the hiring process was incredibly challenging because you're essentially pitching people from top brands to come to, a brand that's got, a deck with, drawings and unfinished branding. And, we were lucky enough to find 3 amazing individuals, 2 who are still with the company. And, a lot of my time went into like how to build that early team. And I'll just say we got lucky. We had 3 amazing first hires to launch the brand with.
Absolutely. Hiring is the hardest skill to learn, but it's the most valuable once you kind of get out of that first, like we're selling stuff stage happens. And then it's like, all right, now we need people to do all this stuff that needs to happen to like actually make this business a business and get the flywheel actually going. And interacting with people and learning their strengths and their weaknesses. And then, I don't know about you, but we're kind of on the EOS kind of system over here. And so like making sure you got not only the right people on the bus, but the right people in the right seats on the bus. Like that's always an interesting conversation. You can definitely hire the right people, but maybe for the wrong thing. And you got to like think through that stuff. For
sure. I mean, my biggest learning, I think being an entrepreneur is, you can have the best product and brand and distribution, but you're not going to be successful without the right people there. And especially as a first-time founder, it does take you time to figure out like what do you value in an employee, and what do you need at each stage, because that does change over time. And so we have just an incredible team here at Caraway. We've got really refined values, I think we do a really good job of placing people in their areas of strength, and also keeping it super lean. We're 6 or 7 years in, only 100 people, and we try to keep things as efficient as possible.
Let's talk about your go-to-market and how you made your initial splash. My first question was, Vremi was very much like an Amazon first endeavor. Did you take that to Caraway too, or did you really want to go all in on D2C first?
It's interesting. Coming from Amazon, that was the natural, like easy path. But funny enough, I wanted nothing to do with Amazon at the beginning. I think I actually said, we'll never sell on Amazon. I was just so immersed in the New York City, like D2C culture of Casper and Warby and Harry's, and, wanted to be like them. And so, we went D2C first. We actually just had one product, which was the cookware set, which is still our bestseller today. And we launched in a pretty unique way. So prior to launch, we built a 150,000 person wait list, which we started building like 6 months prior. And throughout the R&D cycle, we'd send them updates, maybe some image, 3D print images, and, kind of kept them engaged. And then for our launch, and credit to our PR firm at the time for coming up with this, we had something like 200 or 300 influencers post in the first week, which was a really powerful way to get us out there. So we had this list of people who are waiting to buy. We also had 60 investors who we got sales from. And then we had this influencer list. And we had a ton of press around launch. And that was kind of the initial launch strategy. I don't think we actually started running Meta or Google ads for a couple of weeks. And one of the main focuses of that launch period, still true today, but every brand in the space was focused on cooking and food. And we actually went the complete opposite direction. All of our photography was products built as sculptures. We only worked with like interior design and lifestyle influencers. We didn't touch food. We didn't show food. And that was a really refreshing approach for the category that really got us started.
What is the next big idea that could change your business? A pricing change? A new bundling strategy? Adding subscriptions? Tweaking your shipping offer? Most brands make these decisions based on gut feel. They roll out the change, hope for the best, and have no real idea if it helped or hurt their business. Intelligems fixes that. It is an AI-powered testing platform that brings CRO-level clarity to the decisions that actually move the needle. Not just button colors and headlines, but the big stuff. Pricing, offers, shipping, new apps, even major site changes. Brands like Ridge, Jones Road, and True Classics are using Intelligems to test their most important decisions and see exactly how each one of those impacts profit before they commit. Momofuku used it to test promotional offers ahead of Black Friday and found the version that increased profit by about 28%. Mott & Bow ran structured pricing tests that drove roughly 30% more incremental profit. We use it at Electric Eye with almost every client we work with. And now Intelligems has a free AI-powered audit that gives you 3 specific ideas that you can test on your store today. No commitment, no credit card, just 3 opportunities worth exploring. Head to intelligems.io/audit and get your free audit in just a few minutes. That's intelligems.io/audit, intelligems.io/audit. That's such an interesting differentiator in the way you got the product out there, which, I actually never put that together. So it's funny to hear that from you, like from the, straight from the horse's mouth. Now obviously we're coming up on 8 years, I believe, since the launch roughly. And there's a lot of different things that have happened in those 8 years. But if you could look back, are there any like key moments where things definitely were like, this is now we're moving into like another tier of a business?
Yeah. So COVID obviously was a very challenging time for most. For us, we didn't know what was going to happen when that hit, and it was 3 months after we launched the business. Everyone was trapped at home. They were cooking, and definitely was like a growth accelerant period. We launched Amazon in 2022 after a lot of debate, and that's become a really good channel. And I think something really interesting that I did early on, even pre-launch, was we started talking with retailers. So I remember talking with Bed Bath and Target and Crate&Barrel and Zola. And all of our competitors were focused just on D2C. We knew we wanted to be omnichannel. And that was really important to the business and the model. And so very early on, Crate&Barrel was our first partner. I think we launched with them in the first 12 to 18 months, and that was a huge boost for the brand. And so there's all these moments throughout the years, whether it's, product launches or channel launches that have really scaled us. But I think the one thing we've done really, really well is execute kind of the marketing calendar. So if you go on the site, we now have a huge array of products, and we're typically launching kind of 2 products a year. And then in those months where we're not, we always have a marketing campaign. We've got color drops. We did a really cool color drop, I think, in 2023 with Tan France from Queer Eye. And so that just like always on marketing engine has really carried us through the years.
If you had any advice for yourself when you got started about the basically the decision to go back on your word and actually move into Amazon, and this is actually more advice for the listeners out there, people that are sternly against Amazon as a channel for their business, what would you say to them?
I don't think it's right for necessarily every category. I do question it on like fashion or I think textiles. At the end of the day, you have 50% of like e-commerce happening there, and so I think Amazon's done a phenomenal job of allowing your brand to come through with A+ content. You can build storefronts. There's a lot more flexibility today than back in 2015, 16 when I started on it. And it just makes it easier for customers to shop. I think a lot of people talk about getting customer data. Like if you still are primarily D2C, you're going to know who your customer is. You're going to get that data. You really want to make it as easy for customers to purchase as possible. And so, I don't think it's necessarily right for every category. I think it's definitely something that you should explore at some point. The question is when, and when you do launch it, you will see some like cannibalization. And I can tell you this for sure at this point, because I've seen this happen across many moments at Caraway, is Meta is driving a lot of our Amazon sales. So, if you can convert them there faster and better, and that's where they prefer to shop, I say set it up, and it's just another distribution channel for you.
You have prepped all year, and all that hard work is paying off. Your store is converting, the ads are working, and this is shaping up to be your best holiday season. But your 3PL can't keep up. Orders are backing up. Customers are asking where their stuff is. The reviews are starting to turn. All that hard work, all that momentum undone by a fulfillment partner that can't scale with you. This is a nightmare scenario, and it happens to brands every holiday season. Enter eFulfillment service. eFulfillment Service is the 3PL that scales with you. They are family owned, they've been in business for over 25 years, and they're built specifically for growing direct-to-consumer brands. There are no setup fees, no minimums, and no long-term contracts. You only pay for what you use. If you're scared your 3PL can't keep up this holiday season, now is the time to reach out to eFulfillment Service. Go to eFulfillmentService.com/honest and get up to 8 weeks of account fees completely waived. That's EFULFILLMENTSERVICE.com/HONEST, eFulfillmentService.com/honest. I think that's kind of what I usually tell folks is like, look, your personal feelings aside, it's more about your customer and where are they most comfortable with pressing buy at. And if that happens to be Amazon, you're just essentially leaving money and growth and velocity on the table by turning off, which essentially is a big lever for growth for your business.
You also get to take advantage of 2 additional major shopping holidays every year, which is both mid-year Prime Day and fall. And so if you're not on Amazon for those are like, they're not as big as Black Friday, but you kind of get like 2 smaller Black Fridays throughout the year, which are great moments to build around.
Absolutely. Now, Jordan, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience?
I think one thing we didn't really talk about, and this was a learning from Mohawk, was like Caraway's built a very sustainable brand. We're a business that wants to be around in 100 years, and we take that approach with everything. Since the first day we launched, we've been profitable. And so, I think we've built a really strong foundation in business, and, we run the business to, very specific ROAS targets, gross margin targets, and, won't flex below those to achieve growth. We really care about maintaining a strong business that can last for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think that that is definitely a big difference between some of even the brands that you mentioned earlier that you were idealizing in the D2C space, where it was growth for the sake of growth and we'll find profitability later. I'm kind of on the opinion it's just like depends on your risk factor and the type of person you are, which way to run your business. Sounds like you just wanted it to be right out of the get-go, right in quotes, profitable. But I don't know. Do you think there's a right way or a wrong way?
No, I mean, I think it depends on what you want. I've seen businesses just go for straight growth, and if their goal is to exit in 3 years and that's how to get there, like that can be a great strategy. A lot of lower AOV products with higher subscription rates. If you feel confident you're going to get to that LTV, that can be a great strategy. But I think having positive unit economics is a huge moat. It's not easy. And I do think there's a fallacy of a trade-off between like profit and growth. I do really think those 2 things grow together if you do it correctly.
Absolutely.
I'd also add like being profitable allows you to avoid needing to fundraise as much. So if that's not a path you want to go down, you can kind of set your own destiny, not chasing growth.
Yeah. And it allows you to be a little bit more picky about the types of partners that you take on, because when you are doing that type of fundraising, and the more money that you take, the more strings that are attached to that money.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, if I want to learn more about you, learn more about Caraway, or if I'm interested in getting an awesome set of non-toxic cookware, where should I go? What should I do?
You can check us out at carawayhome.com. And I actually only have a LinkedIn, so look me up there. I have no Instagram, no X, no TikTok. I'm off all the social platforms.
Well, I am jealous of you for that. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all those amazing insights.
Thank you. Appreciate it.